You caught them in it. Maybe it was small, a story that didn't quite add up, a detail that changed the second time around. Maybe it was bigger. Either way, you're sitting with that unmistakable feeling. They lied to me. Again. And the question isn't just what they lied about. The question that really keeps you up at night is, why? You've asked them. They've apologized. They've explained. And still, here you are, holding another piece of information that doesn't quite fit, wondering whether you'll ever be able to trust them, whether something is wrong with them, or, quietly, painfully, whether something is wrong with you for staying. Here's what the psychology says. Before we get into your partner specifically, we do need to acknowledge an uncomfortable truth, which is that everyone lies. Psychologist Bella DePaulo at the University of Virginia conducted a now famous study tracking lying in everyday life. She found that the average person tells 1 to 2 lies per day. In romantic relationships specifically, partners lie to each other in about 1 out of every 3 conversations. Now, before you spiral, not all lies are equal. Most of them are small. I'm fine. I already ate. No, I'm almost there. These lies act as social lubricants, the gap between what we actually feel and what we say out loud. But for some people, in some relationships, lying becomes something else entirely. It becomes a pattern. Frequent. About things that matter. About things that erode trust, in a way those small daily lies don't. The reason your partner keeps lying to you probably falls into one of 3 categories. They look similar from the outside, but they are very different underneath. And that difference matters enormously for what you do next. The most common reason people lie in relationships is fear. Not fear of you specifically, but fear of what telling the truth will cost them. This is deeply tied to attachment. In 2020, researchers at Tilburg University in the Netherlands studied lying and manipulation, specifically through the lens of attachment styles. The internal blueprints your nervous system developed in childhood, based on how the people who raised you responded to your needs. What they found was that people with anxious attachment and avoidant attachment were both significantly more likely to lie to romantic partners than people with secure attachment. But they lied for different reasons. Anxious attachment, which develops when early caregivers were inconsistent, warm sometimes, cold or unavailable other times, creates a constant low-level fear of being abandoned. People with anxious attachment lie to manage how their partner sees them. They hide mistakes, downplay problems, say what they think you want to hear. Because at some level, they believe that if you see all of them, the mess, the failure, the thing they did, you might leave. Avoidant attachment, which develops when early caregivers were consistently dismissive or when emotional expression simply wasn't safe, creates a different fear, the fear of intimacy itself. People with avoidant attachment lie as a way to maintain emotional distance. They don't share what's really going on because sharing feels dangerous. Vulnerability feels like exposure. Telling the truth would require letting you in, and letting you in is exactly what their nervous system is designed to avoid. In both cases, the lying isn't really about you. It's an attachment strategy, a way of managing a relationship without fully entering one. Here's the thing that makes this so hard. If your partner is lying from this place, they almost certainly know it's damaging. They probably hate themselves for it. They may genuinely want to stop. But the urge to lie fires before the logic catches up. Because it's not coming from their conscious mind. It's coming from a nervous system that is trying to protect an attachment bond, the only way it learned how. This kind of lying is rooted in fear, and it can, with the right awareness, support, and with time, change. There is a second category. And this one goes even deeper. For some people, lying isn't a response to you, or even to this particular relationship. It's a habit so deeply wired into their nervous system that it fires almost automatically in any high-stakes situation. This is sometimes called compulsive lying, and when it develops in this way, it almost always traces back to early childhood. Researchers who study complex trauma, the kind that comes not from a single event, but from living for years in an environment that wasn't safe, have found something consistent. For children in those environments, lying isn't a moral failure. It's a survival skill. If you grew up in a home where telling the truth got you punished, or where an adult's moods were explosive and unpredictable, or where the safest version of you was the version that said what they wanted to hear, your brain learned something. It learned concealment keeps you safe. Truth is dangerous. That learning gets encoded at the level of the nervous system. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, starts to fire in response to direct questions, to accountability, to being scrutinized. And the fastest way to deactivate that alarm: a lie, a deflection, a story that reframes the moment. The irony is that this survival strategy, which once genuinely protected someone, becomes the thing that most destroys their adult relationships. The child who learned to lie smoothly to an unpredictable parent becomes an adult who lies smoothly in any relationship that activates those same early dynamics, often without realizing they're doing it. If your partner lies in this way, compulsively, reflexively, sometimes about things that don't even seem worth lying about, what you're watching isn't manipulation for personal gain. What you're watching is a nervous system still trying to survive a world that, for them, has never quite felt safe. This kind of lying is painful to be on the receiving end of. It is not, on its own, a reason to leave, but it does require real, deep therapeutic work to change. Not just better communication, not just more honest conversations. It requires someone to actually feel safe enough, for long enough, to slowly unlearn what survival taught them. That's not a small thing, and it's not something you can do for them, no matter how much you want to. The third category is the one people most need to know about, and the hardest one to face. Sometimes lying isn't fear. It's not survival. It's strategy. Psychologists Delroy Paulhus and Kevin Williams identified a cluster of personality traits known as the Dark Triad that includes narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. What these three traits share, regardless of how they differ from each other, is a willingness to deceive, and not passive deception, active, deliberate manipulation of reality, used to maintain power or avoid accountability. For individuals high in these traits, lying serves a function. It keeps you off balance. It keeps you questioning your own memory. It keeps the relationship running on their terms. You might recognize some of these patterns, stories that shift each time you revisit them. Being made to feel your concerns are overreactions. A version of events that sounds plausible, but never quite matches what you experienced. Being told, repeatedly, that you're too sensitive, too jealous, imagining things. This pattern is called gaslighting. And it is not accidental. Now, most people are not Dark Triad. Most people who lie in relationships are doing so from fear or from old learned survival patterns. This third category is less common, but it is important to know it exists. Because if you're trying to understand someone's lying through the lens of attachment theory or trauma, if you're staying because you believe they just need safety, just need support, just need more time, and their lying is actually instrumental, then that framework doesn't just fail to help you. It actively keeps you stuck. The difference, though, it's not always easy to see, usually shows up over time. Fear-based lying and survival-based lying tend to come with remorse, however inadequate or incomplete. There is usually something, at some point, that looks like shame. Intentional, strategic lying tends not to come with remorse. It comes with explanations, justifications, counter-accusations, a way of turning the conversation that always ends with you as the problem. Lying in relationships isn't simple. It can be fear. It can be decades of survival training. It can be something more sinister. And figuring out what to do about it is one of the most complex things a person can navigate. But understanding the why matters. It changes what you look for, what you ask for, what you decide you're willing to wait on, and what you decide you're not. So, you've been lied to. You suspect a pattern. And now, you have 3 possible explanations, each pointing somewhere different. How do you know which one you're actually in? First, look at the remorse, not the apology. Apologies are easy. The remorse. Is there evidence that your partner is genuinely troubled by their own lying? Do they bring it up themselves, even when you haven't? Do they take actual concrete steps, like therapy, rather than just making promises? Fear-based and survival-based liars usually carry real shame about this pattern. That shame, as painful as it is to witness, is information. Second, look at change over time. Has anything actually shifted even slowly? Trauma-based lying, with real support, does move, not overnight, but you'll see evidence, moments of honesty that weren't there before, a willingness to sit with discomfort instead of immediately deflecting, visible effort, even when imperfect. If there's been nothing, no therapy, no change, no movement in any direction, that matters too. Third, look at what happens when you raise concerns. Does the conversation move toward understanding, or does it always somehow end up being about something you did, something you said, how you're the one who made this difficult? This redirection pattern is one of the clearest signals. Someone lying from fear will eventually want to understand how it landed on you. Someone lying for control will make sure you never quite get there. And then, there's the hardest part. You have to decide what to do with what you find. Staying with someone who lies from fear or from old survival patterns can be a healthy choice if they're doing the work and if you can hold your own needs clearly while they do it. That's a relationship that can genuinely change. Staying with someone whose lying is about power is a different equation entirely. Not because those people are beyond help, but because helping them is not something that happens from inside the relationship. And staying, more often than not, doesn't change them. It changes you. Whichever category you're in, you deserve honesty. Not perfect honesty, because no one is perfectly honest, but a partner who is genuinely, actively trying to be real with you. That's not a high bar. That is a baseline. If you came into this video feeling like something was wrong with you for not being able to fix this, I hope you're leaving with something more useful than that. Lying in relationships isn't simple. It can be fear. It can be decades of survival training. It can be something more sinister. And figuring out what to do about it is one of the most complex things a person can navigate. But understanding the why matters. It changes what you look for, what you ask for, what you decide you're willing to have patience for, and what you decide you're not. If this helped you, please subscribe. There's a lot more coming. And if you've been on the receiving end of this kind of pattern, drop something in the comments. You don't have to share the whole story. Just one word for how it felt. I'll be reading them. See you in the next one.